Welcome to Top Landing Gear and to our series of interviews from the 2021 Bournemouth Air Festival. With the 2021 airshow season in the UK drawing to a close, what better time to speak to Red 6 Jon Bond as he brings the curtain down on his 4-year stint with the Red Arrows. As Red 6, Bondie was Synchro Leader and also choreographed a brand new manoeuvre for the Reds called Boomerang. We also spoke to former Red 1, now OC, the Red Arrows, Wing Commander David Montenegro, and Red 10, Squadron Leader Adam Collins. Well, we've spoken to a number of the Red Arrows over the last year or so. Delighted here at the Bournemouth Air Festival to be joined by Jon Bond, who's Synchro Leader. And in his final year, Jon, really good to see you. And congratulations on everything that you've contributed to the display over the 4 years you've been in it.
Thank you very much. As ever, it's always an honour to be part of the Red Arrows, and to get 4 years in is not the normal. So, albeit the pandemic sort of made that decision for us last year, 4 years on the team such as the Red Arrows is an utter privilege, and it's been a joy to have 4 years, and I'll be very sad when it all finishes in about 2 months' time. So making the most of it, sunshine here at Bournemouth makes it all the better. And hopefully we'll put on a couple of belting shows today and tomorrow, and then the last few weeks of the season.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? I mean, Bournemouth, I guess, for you this year has been your biggest display, has it?
Yeah, I think so. In terms of people, I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of people that the numbers have been bandied around, or how many people attend the show every year. And I don't think this year will be any exception, especially with the pandemic and what's gone on. So I'm expecting, we had big crowds yesterday, but I'm expecting Saturday, Sunday to be really busy, and people just haven't seen us over the last sort of 18 months. So it's great for us to go and show that we're still around, and showing what we love doing and what the public love to see. So really looking forward to it, and I'm hoping these blue skies stay. The forecast looked a bit dodgy a couple of days ago, but it looks absolutely glorious now. It was a bit hazy yesterday.
Very hazy. Could you change the colour of your smoke?
Yeah, we can. So you see that we adapt to the weather conditions. So I get advice from Red 10 on the ground. So stuff like the heart. We didn't quite get it right yesterday, but it was from. You get different perspective where you're looking. So for me, all I could see was blue sky because I'm above the haze layer, so above version. Whereas Red 10 looking from the ground looks up. All he can see is sort of that grey, white sort of cloud. So he will suggest to me a colour from his perspective, and you always will take what he said, because essentially he's where the crowd is. So that's what it's going to see.
What could you have changed if you'd have known that was going to be the case? Would you have...
I think yesterday it was probably got a little bit bluer as the show went on.
Right.
So I think a white heart we probably could have stood out a little bit better than the red yesterday. But at the end of the day, you can only really see what you go on at the time, and there's only certain times where Red 10 has the ability to tell us actually it's this heart, because there's a lot of communication going on between the jets, and if Red 10 then steps on another aircraft, it you can get a bit dangerous. So there's various things at these sorts of weather conditions. It may look a lovely blue sky to someone just looking straight up, but actually the sort of the lateral visibility across the horizon is a little bit poorer.
That's really interesting. I thought I was joking when I said, could you not change the colour of the smoke? Because I know you can change the display you're giving mid-display, be it a flat or a rolling or full display, which I think is incredible in itself, that you can change that mid-display. I didn't realise that an additional burst of blue or red might be an option.
We only have a certain amount of smoke, so we've only got 1 minute of blue and red, so we have to limit that, and that comes all into the design of the display. We've got 5 minutes of white. So if we do a red heart, for example, then I know if we have to do a fly past at the end of the show, I'm probably going to run out of red. So then we flip. If we have to do a post-show fly past, we change the colours of the sides slightly. Just so that I don't end up being the only one not smoking because I've run out of red. So,
is there any fat in that when sort of in the display? So say you have 5 minutes of white and 1 minute each colour. Do you use the full minute of each colour?
Yeah, absolutely. The colour we use. We have a little bit of white left. Mainly for when we arrive, because it's also a lot of people everyone thinks that smoke's there to look pretty, but actually it's a critical safety element of our show, especially for me and Red 7. On days like this, actually, where it's a little bit hazy, the first thing I can see is this smoke. I can't necessarily see him. So I look for his smoke trail, then see the aircraft, and then I can pick him up and judge the mist distance. So actually, we're not allowed to display if our smoke system's not working. So it is a critical. It looks really nice, but it's also a critical flight safety element. Similarly, when we come into land, we use it to check the wind direction, so we can judge wake turbulence issues, etc. As we come into land. So we need to have a little bit left over for when we come into land. So
would that apply to all aircraft? So even if one aircraft smoke system went down, that would be can the whole display?
Red 1 can have a non-smoker, we call them. There is one in the fleet that can't smoke, hasn't had the smoke mod, so he can fly it. But the rest
it's critical.
For the front section needed, if it went mid-display, they'd probably continue. Well, they would continue. But for synchro pair, so Red 6 and 7, that's show over for us.
And if that did happen, and let's not dwell on it happening, but would you just adapt the show, you guys would scoot off, and the rest of the show would carry on?
It would actually be pretty seamless. There'd be a little bit of a gap, obviously, where we would be, but the rest of the show would go on. It depends where it happens in the show as well. If it's on the last manoeuvre, then if I'm happy that it's a nice day, it's very clear, I can see. I can see Red 7 clearly, then we might just continue and complete that manoeuvre. But if it happened right at the beginning of the second half, that would be we'd have to go home, sadly.
Okay. Jon, you've been very proactive in sort of adding to the choreography of the display, and one of the new moves we've got this year is Boomerang, which I think you developed. How did you set about developing a new manoeuvre? Because pretty much all of them must have been done by now.
Absolutely. It's one of those where you have to ask yourself before you even contemplate doing it, is why hasn't someone done it before? It's like, I'm not particularly clever, like I've got no wacky ideas. There must be a reason why someone hasn't done it before, and that's normally because it's a bit dangerous. So I spoke to other team pilots previous years. Have you ever thought of doing this? No. And eventually the concept sort of just came from a few ideas I'd seen in the States when we went there and tour from the American display teams. They do some looping opposition passes, and I was like, well, the Reds haven't got that in their show. So I was like, right, we can probably make this work. And we also had the luxury, obviously, early 2021 of late 2020 of having a very quiet period. Which afforded us the training period as well. I'd already trained Red 7 in the opposition passes, so whereas in a normal season we'd be training towards just the basic manoeuvres that the Red Arrows have done for years, we actually had the luxury of having done that in 2020, that we can actually put new things in for 2021. So we did some more of the complex manoeuvres that had been in before as well, like the mirror roll. But Boomerang, essentially, once I've got the concept, I've run it through the appropriate chain of command just to get their take on it, because they hold the risk on the manoeuvre, essentially. Risk assessments, all that good stuff. And then eventually I just went off and did it on my own. So I started quite high, started up at around 1,000 feet.
Oh, that's high, is it? Right.
There's no point doing it higher because the performance of the aeroplane is not representative. Down, even 1,000 feet, it's quite significantly different. And we fly all of our manoeuvres visually as well, because we need to have the capacity to look out rather than stare at the instruments. Clearly, I'll have a look at my speed, have a quick, but the rest of it has to be purely looking out the window, getting visual cues from the cliffs if we're here at seaside, so just to judge height, because my concentration's got to be on where Red 7 is and flying my aeroplane, so I can't go heads into. So the manoeuvre has to be designed to be flown perfectly visually, and you don't get those visual cues if you're any higher than really 300 feet. So anyway, I did it pretty much flying on instruments on my own. Clearly, I didn't have anyone else to avoid. So we did that, and actually we thought, oh, hang on a minute, this could work. I then trained Red 7 in just the basic looping half horizontal that we do, that sort of creates the other half of the manoeuvre. And then we thought, right, should we put it together? I had to pick a still day because I wasn't sure how the wind would affect it, because clearly we're going from 100 feet up to about 3,500 feet. And yesterday was a prime example, actually. We call it a left wind, so it was a wind from the east at low level, so 100 foot. But actually it was a wind from the west at high level. So it's just the sea breeze, classic sort of seaside conditions in the summer. So that affects, clearly there's a left wind when we're down at 100 feet as we pass, but then as we go over the top of the loop, there's a westerly. So you have to sort of play around how that's going to affect it. And anyway, we put it together and we decided, hang on a minute, this could work. And then we had a few days where we had some really, really strong winds at Scampton. I was like, almost a bit reluctant to practice it. I was like, we've got to go and see. You know, we've got all the safety protection in place that we know what to do if it hasn't quite worked out.
Because the wind would have an effect on the positioning of the aircraft.
Exactly,
that's the key thing.
Exactly that. So I will end up down the hill from the loop quicker than Red 7. So how's that going to affect where we pass? Is he even going to be finishing his loop by the time I'm down? All of those sorts of things. And we, for all our other manoeuvres, we have different techniques we use to cater for the wind. So we essentially just applied those and see whether they'd work, and it turns out they did. And then the sort of commanding officer and the duty holder came out and saw it in sort of February time, and everyone said, I think this will work. And so here it is. So hopefully a manoeuvre that's going to be long in the Red Arrows sort of list of manoeuvres for years to come. Yeah,
it should be called the Bond Boomerang, so that your name stays with it for all that time.
We'll just keep it the Boomerang.
When you're doing your opposition passes, what's the lowest you come down to?
100 feet.
It's 100 feet.
Yeah.
And one of your predecessors, DT, Dave Thomas, was talking about the fudge, about how you make the furthest one look like it's closer. When you have a display here, you've got people 100 feet up on the cliffs and people on the beach. How do you decide where to do the fudge for?
It's a great question, and it's one that myself and Red 7, before we brief for a show, is where do we want to fudge to? Clearly here at Bournemouth, there's hundreds of people on the beach and there's hundreds of people on the cliff. So fortunately the way it works out, we don't always get it right, so we do share the love between the cliff fudge and the beach fudge. So, but actually at the moment we're fudging to the beach.
Right.
So and our camera, our video camera, where we get all our debrief tape from, is actually on the cliff. So if 7 hasn't made the fudge, we know he's done it correctly because he would have made it for the people that we're fudging to the beach. However, when he has made the fudge, it's like, that's not what we were fudging. But it's great because if it doesn't quite work out, then at least everyone shares the love of that picture of two aeroplanes sort of in very close proximity overlapping each other. So we might change today, might go for a cliff today, but it does make a big difference where Red 7 sits in relation to myself. So for example, down on the beach, he has to we're also quite far away as well. We're about 500 metres off on the beach, just because we have to stay a certain distance from the pier. That's the closest.
So that's because what we've noticed is that all the displays seem a little bit further away than they are at an air show.
Exactly.
At an airfield-based air show, and that's because of the pier.
We have to base our distance away off from the nearest people, essentially. So if they shut the pier, then we could do it, but.
They want to lose that
clearly, you need to keep the piers open for people to watch. So. We do it 230 metres from the pier, which puts us about 550 metres away.
So that's a fair bit further away than you're normally used to.
So he has to be. So Red 7 has to. We call it softening the fudge.
Right.
You can draw various diagrams with your hand, and as you look up into it. But so he has to make his fudge a little bit more subtle. And for people on the cliff, the fudge has to be even subtler, so almost co-altitude with us, because obviously people are looking down into the show from the cliff, whereas the beach, it doesn't so much because people are looking up into it. So it's, we make the joke that someone always gets the fudge. So we just keep it at that.
The cat always gets the cream.
Someone will get it.
But those are minuscule adjustments, it seems to me, which the kind of speed you're doing and the manoeuvres you're doing seems an incredible undertaking.
Yeah, it's months of practice, to be honest, that allows us to be able to do that. If we weren't a full-time display team, that we would never be able to do that. It's 3 times a day, 5 days a week during the winter, doing that, and we can really hone that. Essentially, you want to be doing it in a second nature manner. If you're thinking too much during the display, then that's not right. It just needs to flow, and it just needs to be very natural. And your hands and feet just work without you having to tell them to.
Sure.
That's the sort of stage that we need to get at, because then you can start thinking about the things that start to go a little bit off-piece. So you've got an uneven wind, or you've got a wind that's not forecast. You've got intruders into the airspace, so you get aircraft that aren't aware of our restricted airspace coming in. We have to stop the display. Little things like that, when they come into the show and make it go a little bit off-piste, that's what you need to use your capacity on thinking about. Or if an aircraft has an emergency, for example, something goes wrong, because the rest of it is second nature. The flying is second nature. You've then got that extra spare bit of capacity to think about the stuff that goes wrong you're not expecting. So that's the sort of stage level that we need to get at.
Can I ask you, during a couple of the manoeuvres, Andy on commentary will talk about, I think, Reds 8 and 9 having to work really hard because they're on the outside of a big turn. Can I just ask you what they're doing? Why that? I mean, I think I know kind of a bit about why it's so hard, but could you just explain how you, as on the outside of the formation, how you actually do that?
Absolutely, they've definitely got the hardest job in some of the bigger shapes we've got to this year. So Swan and Big Vixen, where they're 3 aircraft out. That is a lot of work for them. Essentially, they have to move. If you imagine a big slinky, if they moved when the boss moved, they would call behind it. So you wouldn't see the wing rise. If you're on the left and you're in a right-hand turn, if they went when the boss went, you'd see an aircraft massively behind the wing as it goes up. So they essentially have to move before the boss is even. Before the boss has even said sort of his cadence will be coming right now. They're sort of going on the ing of coming. They're already putting an input in.
Amazing.
To essentially rise up above the main plane of the wing of the formation to enable that nice straight line that you get in a turn of all aeroplanes, sort of nicely in a line sloping down towards the boss.
So in terms of controls, how are you doing that? If you're on the upper part of that roll, are you going into a nose-up attitude, and if you're on the lower part, are you going to a nose-down?
Absolutely. They use a lot of rudder as well on the outside of the turns, the guys, just to get the momentum of the aeroplane going. So if you're on the outside of the turn, you'll be leaning a bit of pitch up, a little bit of inter-turn rudder as well, and clearly inter-turn aileron, just to make sure that you get that straight line that you want to create as you go up. So, and the inputs are so tiny as well, but you have to go early. We call it go earlier than less with the less, but it's it's such a small input, and as long as you get the timing right, then that input stays the same the whole way. But if you're behind it, as you say, so you're behind the boss's cadence, then and you'll naturally put a bigger input in, but that input won't be correct, and you end up through the formation, so through the main plane of the wing of the formation, and that's when it starts to look a bit scrappy. So it's all about timing for them, and the old Red Arrows adage, earlier with less. So earlier timing with less of an input is the way forward.
Would it be possible to ever do a Reds display without radio? Or do you need that cadence?
We'd have to have communication is key with us in everything we do, really. So with not just within the formation, but with Red 10 on the ground as well. So we have to have radio comms with everyone, really.
John, just before we let you go, obviously this is your final year, and in fact this is your first time in Bournemouth for 3 years, because of course in 2019 or 2018? 2018, as you mentioned earlier, you had the tour.
2019 we went there, 2018 was the last time.
Sorry, last time, so 2019 was the tour to the States. Was that a highlight of your time in the Reds?
Absolutely. I mean, you don't often get. I think we took 12 jets in the end across the pond to display in America and Canada. That's a once in a lifetime thing in any sort of military aircraft, let alone a Red Arrow. So, yes, clearly a highlight. But 2018 was the 100th anniversary of the Royal Air Force. That was a cracking year to be a part of as well. The fly past down the Mall.
Yes.
And then these last 2 years have been special in sort of in different ways. The very few fly pasts we did last year, 2020, and the 3 displays I think we did, almost meant more than anything else I'd done in those previous years, because clearly it was such a strange and bizarre time for everyone. And everyone was having a lot worse day than we were. But it's the appreciation that we got from people who hadn't seen us, especially this year, for sort of 18 months, almost trumps anything else that we've done, to be honest. Especially in summer last year when we were flying over London. We had D-Day anniversaries. We did a joint fly past with the French display team.
Oh, that was stunning.
And the reaction we felt, clearly that the streets of London were completely empty. There was no one there. But as we flew over London, you could see people on balconies, rooftop. There's some rooftops I thought never existed in London. People managed to find their way up onto. That for me, New York. All the fly pasts we did in America were special. 2018 was special, but there was something about last year and just the very few things we did that sort of stand out. Will probably live longer in the memory than the other ones. Do
you find when you tour that the reaction is different from the UK crowds? I mean, are you?
Yes.
Is it a big difference?
There's one thing that again will stand out from the 2019 tour to America that. No, I don't think any of us sort of cottoned onto before we went that this would be the biggest thing ever for the American and Canadian crowd, the coloured smoke.
Really?
And I had not envied that the American display teams and the Canadian display teams only have white.
Yeah.
And it didn't click with me at all until everyone goes, "Oh, we're loving the coloured smoke," and we're like.
And quite fortunate.
We just get used to it.
I suppose being red, white, and blue, they thought it's for the Americans as well.
And that was just something really small that we thought, oh wow, that's actually had a massive impact. Just literally seeing aeroplanes with red and being able to interchange between them throughout.
Are you expecting them to copy that now, or is others?
I think they might have tried. I think one of the teams may have tried, but I'm not sure.
You're not giving any secrets
how
away.
It worked, but yeah, so that it was just one of those things that you think about everything before you go out. How is it going to be received, etc. And I just did not think about we're the only team that display over there that has coloured smoke.
What's next for you, John?
I'm going back to Typhoon, so I'm going back to the frontline squadron that I left actually before I joined the Reds, which would be great. So almost full circle. So yeah, really looking forward to that. It's a fantastic aeroplane, as I'm sure everyone's seen this week at Bournemouth. But so yeah, looking forward to that. Something a bit different. I think we need. It's always good to have some fresh blood into the Reds and keep the tradition and the standard of excellence as good as it will always been as we go through the years.
I'm sure we'll be keeping a close eye on them as well.
Do you know what? I generally cannot wait to watch a Red Arrow show. I haven't seen one since 2017.
They're pretty good.
I'm genuinely
they're not bad. I think you'll like them.
Forward to coming to Bournemouth maybe next year, sitting there on the beachfront, nice and relaxing, watching the boys do their thing. And I generally cannot wait to watch it.
Have you selected next year's new pilots?
We have, yeah. So they've already started with us actually training back at Scampton, just doing they have to do a few basic sorties just to get used to them.
Are they going to be right, do you think?
I think they'll be absolutely. I mean, there's always the old joke is, myself and Steve Morris, who's leaving as well, I was like, right, how do we find a way of breaking their legs or something like that? How can we manage to? How can we stay another year? There must be a way. Or just trying to put them off. Just trying to put them on. Nah, it's rubbish, mate. You don't want to do it. It's probably not for you. But no, they'll be great. And as I said, I really look forward to seeing them display next year.
Brilliant. John, thank you so much for your time. As I say, thanks for all the entertainment over the years you've provided us as part of the team. And best of luck with the future.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to talk to you. Cheers.
We are now currently in very esteemed company. We're with two Red Arrows. We've got Red 10 Adam Collins, who gives the commentary at all the displays. Brilliantly, I must just say. And David Montenegro, or Monty, who is, of course, a former leader of the team. And now, is this a new role, David, that didn't exist before, that you are now taking on?
We've always had a wing commander on the team, and in 2012 the wing commander became the squadron commander. It used to be Red 1, used to do everything, but we just separated that slightly. So having been a previous Red 1, now I've come back 4 years later now into Bournemouth as a squadron commander. So I'm so lucky. Third bite of the apple really for me with the team.
That never happens.
No.
Until now.
No, unless you're Mike Ling. When you just kept on coming back, didn't he? I think.
He did. And I mean, there's been quite a few team members before circumstance has driven them back into the team for various periods. But it's phenomenal actually to be part of the generation of the team. I was in Bournemouth 2009 was my first display year as Red 3, to now be back in 21 as the Squadron Commander. Just see how the evolution unfolds, really. It's superb.
So what is your role now within the team, and how frustrated are you by not being up there?
I think, having been so lucky to do 3 years as Red 1, I'm really content now to watch Tom Bold, who's in his first year as Red 1, go through the challenges that come with that job. It's a brilliant. It's the best seat in the house from a flying perspective. But I find it really fulfilling.
Shaking of the head from
fulfilling to be on the other side of the equation. So in the winter, I'm doing the training, the mentoring for all the team members, but then looking out for the rest of the 126 of us. It's the pilots do the delivery side, but the support element with all of our engineers, all of our operational staff. I lead the welfare, discipline, everything that goes with the team, and I love it. I took over the day of lockdown, so I couldn't have had a better challenge as a Squadron Commander. It's been awesome. A completely different lens to be a part of the Squadron from Red 1. Emails or flying, I do prefer flying. But to be able to know that you're kind of doing that so Red 1 doesn't have to, and Adam and everyone else can concentrate on doing this side of the job, it's great.
How often do you get the chance to jump into a jet yourself and throw one around the sky?
So in the winter training period, I'll fly with the team once or twice a week.
All right.
When we're transiting around onto big international shows, we all take 11 aircraft. So rather than being right at the front, I'm right at the back now, so I get to see the organised chaos in front of me rather than just hoping it was going all right behind me. And it's great. I mean, actually, I love being at the back of the formation now. But I don't fly anywhere near as much as I used to. But I really value it now. Not that I didn't as a team leader, but you were flying every day, 3 times a day. I felt more at home in the cockpit than I probably did in my actual home, which is probably not the best circumstance to be in. Whereas now, when I strap the jet on, I really enjoy my 1 hour or 2 hours a week. And to be honest, to be in my mid-40s and still flying a fast jet around, I'm not complaining. Okay. It's awesome.
And Adam, you shook your head when he said he had the best seat in the house. You think yours is potentially?
I wouldn't say a shake of the head, maybe a raise of the eyebrow, but certainly my role, as you said, I do commentate the show. My main role is actually safety supervision of the team throughout the training period and the display, but probably the most fun part of my role is flying the team photographer. So when we're doing display practices, we'll do an aerobatic photo chase, getting the video and the images of the formation manoeuvres and the aerobatics happening. But then when we do our big tours, or if we're doing significant flypasts, then I'll be flying to the side of the formation or above them or wherever is appropriate to get the shot that we need. So there are various images burnt into my memory banks, certainly from the North America tour, flying over the Golden Gate Bridge, New York, various other places. So I think a lot of the time Red 1 has the best seat in the house, but there are certain times where looking down on the formation, getting the photographer into that perfect position, I get the opportunity to soak that up, whereas everyone else is concentrating on the team leader and working hard to stay in formation.
We were having a chat with the photographer actually, unfortunately off microphone a short while ago, but who literally calls the shots in that situation? Because obviously you've got 9 other aircraft flying fairly close to you, but you can't tell precisely, can you, what shot he's after or what position you're in terms of what he's seeing through his viewfinder? So
it's as with everything we do, it's a real team effort. And the main thing when you're photo chasing is, as with everything we do, is safety. So I need to be out of the way of everybody. If somebody has an emergency or an issue with the aircraft, I need to be out of the way. So if they need to get out of the formation, I'm not in the wrong place, if you like. So in terms of getting that shot, the safety comes first and then the shots we're after come second. We'll have a chat before we fly about what we want to try and achieve from it. Fletch, the photographer, might have his dream shot that he wants to get, but if I can't safely put the aircraft in that position, it's never going to happen. So we'll strike that compromise. I'll have a fair idea of shots I think would look good as well, and then we go out and try and execute that. As with everything, we'll try and take the sun and things into account, but situations present themselves whilst you're flying. You think, actually, this is going to look great, I'm now going to do this. I'll talk to Fletch, tell him what I'm going to do, say, right, the shot's going to be outside the right-hand side of the aircraft in about 10 seconds, roll around, get him in the position, and then we'll try and get it. So There is a lot of planning that goes into it, but there is a little bit of luck as well. So just getting that right, the light, the shadow on the ground might suddenly look amazing. That you can't really foresee that, even with the best will in the world, knowing where the sun is, being an expert photographer as he is. There are just certain situations where you get there and you think, right, this is going to look great. Let's now do this.
As Red 10, do you ever act as a sort of whip to adjust the formation, or is that not required with the Reds?
It's not generally required unless we're doing something bespoke.
Yeah.
So the formation references that the guys fly are so practiced and so ingrained that they know when they're on the correct position.
Yeah.
So the standard formations we do, for example, over Wembley or the big fly pass, that's bread and butter for us.
Yeah.
The only time that whipping comes in, the term that's used for another aircraft finessing the formation position, is really when we're doing either a mixed formation with a large aircraft, or we've got other aircraft in the formation for a very specific reason. So, for example, flying on the wing of a 747, as we did at Riyadh a couple of years ago, as well as taking the photos there, I would talk to Reds 2 and 3, who are the closest to the 747, to say, right, this is how you need to adjust your position
because
to make it look right. Exactly, it's a new reference for them. It's not something we'd have had chance to practice. So I've got that 30 seconds, a minute to talk to them and say, okay, adjust in this respect to make that look symmetrical. Once they've got that, they're then on their own, and I'll concentrate on getting the pictures.
And we saw a rather lovely photo the other day you put up of the with the Polish Hawks as well. So there were something like 15 Hawks in one shot.
We were in Poland. There were 9 aircraft from our team plus me. Then there were the 4 Finnish Midnight Hawks. We actually had then a Skyvan camera ship as well, which was getting some of the aircraft.
And that kept up, did it?
Yeah, not quite. He was flying pretty slowly, and then we were race tracking round, overtaking him. But in that respect, I had the team of 9, the team of 4 to avoid, so 13 aircraft doing the same speed, and then the Skyvan going much slower, also taking pictures.
What could possibly go wrong?
Well, that's the thing. You have to take all of that into account, and that's where getting the ideal shot comes second to the safety. But as you saw, we managed to get some great shots, and the photographers looking out the back of the Skyvan, getting those head-on shots, which are quite difficult to get from another Hawk.
Yeah.
So a good combination of pictures from that, and great fun to do as well.
Great.
Monty, we were lucky enough to speak to Tom Bolt just before Christmas, as he was just getting into the swing of being the new Red One. He was obviously very excited about it. He couldn't tell us too much about new formations, but there is quite a new looking display now, which not that many people will have seen, and Bournemouth is going to be a terrific showcase for you, isn't it?
It is. So last year we actually did what's called a team freeze, because we didn't know how much training opportunity we'd get in the COVID environment. We kept Reds 2 to 9 for an extra year in the same position. And that proved to be a really good decision, because we were quite hampered through the winter with various issues that were going on, not just in the team, but the support elements that keep flying going. But what it gave Tom as the new team leader is he knew he could design a really complex show. So the show you see today throughout 2021 is as complex as it gets for the Red Arrows. If you look at the first half, where you've got what's called the Swan to Fred loop, really, really difficult to do. And even though they're in their second year in the same position, they're still working really hard. Oh, there's some big trumpets about to go behind us, I think, on this.
Oh, yeah. Here we go.
Impeccable timing.
We might come back to it if we like. So, Monty, we were just talking about Tom coming in as the new boy.
Yes.
And what that's given him to work with in terms of creating a new display.
Yes, technically very difficult, brilliantly complex this year as a display. So we were talking about the Swan to Fred loop in the first half. The big Vixen roll is the widest formation that any aerobatic team does a 360 roll over. So Reds 8 and 9 are working really hard to make that look perfectly symmetrical. With the speeds they're travelling and the distance they're flying. For Tom here, Bournemouth is just a really great display location. It's a nice straight line, as in the coastline. The way that they set up the visual features are really, really good. And he's the only one that really gets a snapshot, I think, in that first half of the display to really just take it in. Look at what may be, I don't know, 250,000 people.
Yeah.
I mean, there aren't many live performance events around the world that you capture that many people.
Yeah.
And I used to give myself just half a second of stepping out of the display, looking at it, and then immediately getting the brain focused. But the second half is going to be really good this year. Squadron Leader Jon Bond is Red 6, and he had a concept that he wanted to bring in called Boomerang. We did 4 months of risk assessment, trials, And the nice thing about Boomerang is it's a really laterally long manoeuvre, so it actually covers about 6 miles of ground track in total, 2 opposition passes, each of them loop at either end of the display line up to 3,000 feet. So no matter where you are on the coast front here, you'll get to see the Boomerang. But the real challenge is what I ask everyone to look out for is they pass at display centre. They then travel around 6 miles laterally, then up in the, and then they have to pass at exactly the same point, and that takes real capability. It's not just about training; it's about how good Gregor and John are on the day, every day with that manoeuvre. So really good display. Awesome to watch from my perspective from the ground. And what's really nice is I now get to see the response on the ground. Red 10, Cos has been doing this, and he whips up the crowd with his brilliant commentary, and I get just to stand back a bit and know that every single of those thousands of emails are well worth it, because this is what this is what it does.
Does it really mean something to the pilots to be able to see that crowd down there?
It does. It depends where you're on the formation. Reds 2, 3, 4, 5, they're all staring at Red 1. And I don't think I could have been displaying on the moon when I was Red 3, and it wouldn't have made a difference apart from clearly the gravitational force. But when you are Red 6, I think Red 6 and Red 1, they're the 2 formation positions where you do get to take it in a bit. But actually, what you very much feel in the brief, in terms of raising the performance profile, it does depend on where you're displaying, and there's a big crowd here. So I used to love this bit of the job, and I know Tom does. He has to temper that type of adrenaline build so that you're not over revving before you get in the aircraft. You're perfectly balanced, so you hit the right arousal level. And I could see times in certain displays, and we used to have it here in Bournemouth. But once you've done the first 2 days and the momentum has built, and then you see on the Saturday, we've got almost 250,000 people here, making sure that it's hard to describe, but you're just keeping yourself in the right kind of psychological, kind of compartmentalised, ready to deliver the display, to then get down, come and meet the public afterwards, and then see all the engagement that's going here on the seafront. I used to really enjoy that. And there are other shows when you're a bit under aroused, to be frank, just because it might be the 14th in the last 12 days, and you have to build them up again. It's really interesting. I love that part of the job.
Adam, so one of my previous jobs with the Red Arrows was to deliver Red 10. So I used to be an instructor at Shawbury, and one of our weekend jobs was to that must be the best part of your job, isn't it? Going in a helicopter?
It's a lot of helicopter pilots say that, actually. It's the most dangerous. We still do have great support from the Central Flying School at Shawbury. So because of the number of displays we do in a season and the number of displays we try and fit into the average week in the summer, without the help of the guys from Shawbury, I simply wouldn't be able to get where I need to be on time. I'm generally on the ground about 90 minutes before the start of the show, so I can talk to the flying display director. I can look at the show site, look at the hazards, report back to the team leader. Do you have to attend the pilot's briefing? Is that? It depends on, if I can, I will. But if we're doing more than one show a day, it's not always possible. Quite often the show brief will be in the morning, and then everyone who's at that show is just doing that show for the day. We might have displayed already somewhere else and then flown in. So that gives me an opportunity on the way in on the helicopter to look at the show site from above, take pictures with the wonders of modern science, WhatsApp them to the team leader. So when he's looking, because in the Hawk, remember, we don't have a head-up display, we don't have a moving map, we don't have any avionics to help the team leader. We've got a stopwatch, a compass, and route study, map study, and a very rudimentary GPS. So if I can send a photograph back to the team leader saying, look, at Datum, the centre of the show, you've got a white marquee with pink spots all over it. If he can spot that on the run-in, then that's a really good reassurance for him that he's hitting the mark on the arrival. It could be that there's some hazards that when I've done the site survey haven't been there, so for example a crane or something like that. So getting there early with the helicopter means I can assess that, send photos back, and we're in a position then for me to supervise the show appropriately. Quite often the helicopter will then be waiting for me, move me either onto the next location or back to where the aircraft are, and then I'll join up with everybody else and fly along with them onto the next show site. So, critical support we have from them. And it's not always the Shawbury guys, to be honest. I was very lucky this weekend that going to the Isle of Man, we actually had the Royal Flight supporters, so had an Augusta 109, took us across, which very, very comfortable way to travel. But again, for safety reasons primarily, but logistically getting me to the right place at the right right time.
Okay.
And just talk, if you would, just a little bit about being back at Bournemouth for the first time in 2 years, because we've heard how much this location means to the display teams here.
It's a great location. I mean, airfield show sites are brilliant, Riyadh, the big shows like that, but when you come down to the British seaside, great weather. I mean, the sun's not quite shining today, but the cloud base is high, the winds are light, it's good visibility, it's good display flying weather, knowing there's going to be potentially 1 million people here over the weekend enjoying themselves, not just with the flying, but everything else that's going on the ground. As we talked about already, there is a real buzz to it, and knowing that there's that many people, it's a special place for us to come back to as the team, and one of the premier events that has so much associated with it other than just being a pure air show.
Gents, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Really good to meet you, and have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, chaps. Thank you. Well, a huge thanks to everyone who took time to talk to us. And remember, you can hear more interviews from the Bournemouth Air Festival and all our Top Landing Gear podcasts wherever you normally get your podcasts from. You can also follow us on social media at Top Landing Gear and get in touch with us by email at info@toplandinggear.com. That's info@toplandinggear.com, 2 Gs. Thanks for listening.